that's one hell of a story again. So, I was in my 30s when I got into rallying and motorsports. And, I was able to relate to them the most because I'm myself an athlete. Strategy.
What has been your favorite failure?
Favorite failure.
I like to refer to Garima as a one-woman army. Stick around till the end of the episode to find out about her insane journey and all the ups and downs that she's gone through. Also, do wait to hear our last question, our one-liner, which is a banger this time around.
Here we have Garima Avtar, extreme rally driver, podcaster, and a whole lot more. So I'm going to let her take the introduction.
So I'm Garima Avtar. I'm an extreme rally driver and a freelance auto journalist. I'm a host on the NBA India Weekly Show, and I have my own podcast where I interview athletes and it's based on sports psychology and motivation. I love to create content for supercars and luxury cars, and I love cars and driving, basically.
Garima, the most obvious question. Uh, what prompted rally driving and how did you get into rally driving?
I get asked this question very often. So see, there is this term which I think I can associate this very well with my case. It's unintended consequence. So I never intended to get into rally driving. It just happened for me. So it just happened by chance. I basically, my dad taught me driving when I was very young. I was in my school actually, and I'm a big punkha of my dad. A big fan. I love my dad, and so basically, I love cars and driving, and I just happened to go for one rally. It was a competitive rally, but a TSD format rally, like time, speed, distance format rally. And I did well in that. And I had a podium finish in my first rally. So I think the rally bug bit me and there was no stopping me after that. And then I was also lucky to get picked up by Mahindra Adventure Rally team. So I think that's how it started my career and my journey into adventure sports and rallying basically. So and then I got into extreme rallying after taking further training and all the stuff. I got into extreme rallying.
Rallying is so unusual, though. Like, it is, India being where it is, we don't hear about rallying that much.
Yeah.
So, why did it come to mind?
No, so I saw a random ad of a rally happening, uh, you know, uh, and I just decided to just try it out. And I did well in that, and I thought, okay, let me go for the next one, and the next one, and then and then I actually upgraded my skills, and I just went to more advanced driving. I learned more advanced driving from the PRC champion, and I got into professional rallying.
So, what does it look like in India? What's the whole demographic of rallying in India, and what do you think like the future of rallying in India would be like?
So motorsports in general is not very popular in India. It's supposed to be an expensive sport and all. For the longest time, it was not considered part of. It was not recognized by the government, as a professional sport. But now it is recognized by the government. It comes in the purview, and we are eligible to get sponsorship. We can in the sense sponsorship in the sense from the government related to there are a lot of training options are available now, and uh, things have become much better. More avenues have opened up in rallying now, but back then when I got into rallying, there were just very few handful of women out there. In fact, I remember for one desert storm rally that I had gone in the initial when I was part of Mahindra team Mahindra. amongst the 250 participants, I was the only female driver. So, that's the ratio. It's just very few handful women out there. And it's just, it's just challenging the societal norms and breaking the barriers. And I think it's just that. But rallying as a sport is a great sport. And also, even F1, if you talk about car racing or F1, so, F1 is more popular than rallying. Rallying happens in the countryside on all kinds of terrains. F1 happen on circuits, tracks and all, which are so it's easier to cover, to get more media coverage on the F1 tracks, but about the tracks basically. And countryside, when our rally happens, like the length of the rally is like 200, 300 kilometers and all. It's difficult to get a lot of media coverage and all. And so I think that's also so motorsport running per se is not that popular in India. I mean, and it's difficult to get sponsors.
So let's take it back a little bit. What was the whole journey of getting in, or up until the point that you got to rallying? Where have you come from, and how did you get to that point that you were in a position to get into a sport such as rallying? Because I know I grew up a big fan of motorsports, a big fan of Formula One, and I mean, I could never even think of the kind of path that was required to get there, and even to even think of starting something like that. So how did you go about doing that?
Okay, so that's one hell of a story. I come from
We here love hell of a stories. We only here for the stories.
Okay, cool. So I come from a small sleepy town, Bareilly, and as I mentioned, I belong to an orthodox conservative family, and I got married immediately after my 12th, when I was just 18 years of old. So I had big dreams. I was a bright student, and I was always the house captain, and I wanted to study more, but I had no say. I did finish my graduation after my marriage, but I wasn't allowed to even attend regular college because I got married into a conservative family, so I have no experience of regular college life. But anyways, so talking about my marriage, unfortunately, it turned out to be a bad one. The circumstances were such that I found myself, um, at the crossroads of life. The choice in front of me was like whether I want to, give up to the circumstances and carry on with my life, or choose a life of self-respect and dignity. And I chose the latter. So, from a total comfort zone, I moved out to a life full of uncertainty. I had no financial backing, no worthwhile professional degree, because I did finish my 12 by my BComs, but I didn't have any professional degrees. So the initial years, as a single mother, were tough. But I was also very, very determined, to make something of my life. And I slowly found my feet, and I got into a full-time corporate job. So this was my resurgence, because I belong to a business class family, and I had led a very protected and a secured life. So I had never ever done a job before. So it was a completely new experience for me to take up a full-time job. And people did come to support me, like they were there morally supporting me, God sent people and all. But, I was very sure that I'm not going to be, kind of be a burden on anyone. My dad had passed away, many years back. So yeah, I mean, that's how I came to, came to Delhi, and I took up a job here. And slowly and steadily, life became better. I learned at the job. worked hard, and I did well in the company, and I got promoted well. And during this time, I got introduced to motorsports. I just, you know, I just happened to go for one random rally, and that's how the adventure bug bit me, and there was no stopping after that. Uh, And initially, I would pursue my this newfound passion during weekends and holidays, but my casual interaction with motorsports, it became a um, full time thing. I became very passionate about the sport. So yeah, so that's how actually I got into rallying. I had not thought of it. As I said, back then when my dad was teaching me driving when I was young, neither he nor I imagined that I would, get remotely. We imagined that I'll get into motorsports. But I think, as I mentioned, you know, the thing about unintended consequence. So I think just some things just happen. You don't you don't think of that, and I think that's God's way of giving you some opportunities and making something good of your life. So and as a child, I always wanted to do something extraordinary with my life, and I got married when I was so young. So I think when we have these expectations of ourselves, we also tend to work towards them. And after when I became a single mom, I wanted to be a good role model for my daughter, and I wanted to do something. You know, somewhere what happens when we are married, either when we are married, we are identified by the name of our husbands or our fathers, and or our parents, basically a dad. Um, but when I became single, I realized I had lost my identity. My father was also not there. He'd passed away by the time I'd become single. So I felt that nobody knew Garima Aftar, and then, life as a single mom is also very challenging because the society it judges you, or whatever. I mean, so but I wanted to make something of my life. I wanted to get, you know as I said, this was my resurgence. I wanted to prove to myself that I can do something positive and constructive with my life. And that was one very big motivation for me. And so once I got into rallying, and then there was just no stopping. I got trained, and I just did so many things around rallying, then around cars, and later not just competitive rallying, but much, much more than that.
Liking the video allows us to be bigger and get a wider reach. YouTube algorithm helps us that way. So hit the like button below and let's go on.
Prior to our call, I asked Vishrut to give me like a little bit of summary about you. And he used one sentence. He was like, she's a one-woman army, right? And
Wow.
and after hearing all of this, I'm like certain that you are a one-woman army, right? In India is still a little bit of a patriarchal society. It still is.
Little bit.
It is transforming.
Little bit.
Little bit. It is transforming, and people like yourself are the reason why it is transforming. You are a stamp on that kind of a society that you got to change, declined. Like that. It's lovely to hear such a story.
No, thank you so much. But I have to tell you one very important thing, which, I didn't mention that, I got into running very late in life. So, I was in my 30s when I got into running and motorsports. And, when you're over 30, you're planning a retirement in any sport. So today's champions, they start very early on. And by the time they're 30, they have done it and seen it all. And here I decided to take up a sport which was so tough and risky and, so late in life. So, and besides that, motorsport was a completely uncharted territory for me. Nobody from friends or family are remotely associated with motorsports. And besides that, it just not require mental and physical toughness. It also requires a lot of financial support. So, that initially I remember, my friends and family, they did not take me seriously. They were like, out of concern, they advised me against it. They were like, they argued that, I will end up disappointed as I was on the wrong side of the age curve as well. So, there were so many doubts and apprehensions, but I was so determined. And since then, the journey may have been grueling, but there has been no looking back. So,
So you
I
answered the question. You answered the question I was about to ask, because again, through whatever exposure I have to Formula One and things like that, you hear motorsport drivers, they start go-karting and things like that at like 7 years old, 6 years old. And, then at the age of, in their 20s, they get into the Formula 2s and Formula 1s. And then by the time they're like, in their mid to end 30s, they're done with the sport. You saw
yeah,
that with, you've seen that with all the great champions, and it takes a massive toll
absolutely.
on your body. So
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
how did you manage that? What was the whole thing, and how different is rallying, or how, what was the physical sort of stress put on the body thanks to, the 200, 300 kilometers in wilderness?
Yeah, so see, as I mentioned, I started very late in life, but you know, I think age should limit what we can lose. What we can learn, what we can achieve. I'm a real life example that if one has a will and dedication and belief, then anything is possible. So, yeah, but definitely the most important thing here is to train yourself. So, um, honing your skills, driving skills, and also learning uh, the mechanics of the car, or the car, the rally car that you're driving. It's very important to be on top of your game so that, uh, so that you can, you feel good about even driving. I mean, so I did take a lot of training in to hone my driving skills. And also, I would spend a lot of hours understanding about the cars, the physics. And there are a lot of physics that happen when you're racing and on. There's a lot of science behind it. So it's good to train yourself so that you are driving and competing at the highest level. And that's how the peers also, they respect you when you do that. So I was very sure that if I want to rally, I must be well trained. And what happens with maturity and life experiences, they teach you so much. Then matlab, see, I was extremely determined, very focused. So I gave my best. And then also, when you wear that helmet and you sit behind the steering wheel, then the gender doesn't matter. I mean, then it's just you with the car. You are, you have to give your best shot. You have to be present at the moment, focus 100%, and give, yeah, just like be completely.
So this
There was
this
that.
in fact reminds me of a line from this movie, the movie Ford versus Ferrari. They had
Yeah.
this line in the movie, and the guy says that when you are at 5,000 RPMs, you become one with the car. And what you're
There you
saying is
go.
just reminding me of that.
Yeah, definitely. You have to, get into the zone. I mean, and when you're behind the wheels, then it's not about, either that you're a woman or a guy, because many times I get asked this question that, don't you get, I mean, that like women are bad drivers. What about that stereotype? And, I mean, do you have to really prove yourself on the track? Yeah.
I think
We
you're
do.
single-handedly breaking that stereotype.
So I mean, that stereotype is a little disheartening, because it's like saying that all the Westerners, they think that everybody in India does yoga, or your favorite food is chicken tikka. But you cannot just generalize things. I think women drivers, female drivers are very careful drivers. They are very little overcautious, that I think that irritates people around. And also, I think it's the upbringing, when while growing up, generally, that, you don't see many girls playing with cars or something. They are, they're brought up very delicately, and they're playing with dolls. And but I was lucky, actually. I was My father did not differentiated. I was brought up very, but I was very fond of cars in the sense. And my dad, when I expressed to him that, and he wanted me to become independent, and he was very progressive in his thinking. And when I said, I want to learn driving, and it's so cool, so he did taught me. And then I ended up getting a learner's license also. We managed to get that. So, and he was very particular about the fact that, I drive under rules. And he had given me a speed limit of 50. I was not allowed to drive over 50, 50 kilometers per hour. That was the speed limit. So, a lot of discipline also goes. But yeah, so the love for driving in cars started there. So I think it also depends on the upbringing. That's how, uh, women, they get into driving and all, I think, much later. And it doesn't come very, like guys and all, they'll be like, they'll get behind the wheels and start driving the car. I think girls are told, even by their moms, and, कि भाई शादी नहीं होगी, अगर चोट लग गई, दांत टूट गया तो शादी नहीं होगी. So, but things are changing. The trends are changing for good. So that's nice and positive. So that's great.
To be fair, though, chicken tikka is pretty awesome.
And I
But yeah,
mean,
getting
everyone should do yoga. So those two
Everyone should do
stereotypes
yoga.
are definitely ones that we should aim to follow.
But yes, getting behind the wheel and fighting your opponents, as well as fighting the culture, because the culture doesn't believe you should belong behind that wheel, is not at all fair. And you being able to fight that, and you being able to, stand against that, completely awesome. So like real kudos to you for being able to do that.
Thank you so much. There's so many awesome women out there who are doing this. I mean, like you see Mary Com, you see, women out there are, driving fighter jets and all. And so they're all breaking barriers and breaking these stereotypes. So, and challenging societal norms. So I think it's very, it feels really nice and empowering that you can, do things that can, give access to other women, and give this kind of, other women can also then explore these options. So that it feels really nice that it happens when it happens. Yeah.
So I think we can move on now to the next part. What led from the rallying to the auto journalism to the podcast to now everything else that you mentioned?
All right. All right. Yes. Yes. So yeah. As I said, see, rally was more so also, rally was like a passion, a weekend passion initially. Then I got into extreme rallying, and then I quit my job. After that, when there were too many opportunities, then I worked in a corporate job, full-time job for almost 9 years, and then I saw there was a lot of opportunities around cars, doing brand collaborations on social media, this that. So I decided to quit my job and got full-time into this. And meanwhile, also, I was the first professional driver for Mercedes-Benz Lux Drive. They have this program where a Lux Drive, where, so anyway, so I was the first woman driver there. So, and, one opportunity after the other kept, coming forth. And yeah, and then when I became part of Mercedes-Benz, then I realized, okay, let me get into social media. So yeah, and I started creating content on social media, and then things started happening, and one thing. So I was just not only doing competitive running. I was I started doing things around cars. I started getting invited for media launches, and one thing after the other just kept playing.
Was it difficult quitting your job?
It was like, this was my second resurgence. So, in the sense, like, working full time in a job, it gives you a lot of security. And then quitting a job and getting into an uncertain future again, because see, there seemed to be opportunities, but one didn't know. I mean, whether, I will be able to do it successfully, or, I'll be able to manage, and whatever. So this was a very big, kind of, um, uh, dilemma again in front of me, whether I should get into this new path, completely uncharted, another uncharted territory in front of me. But then I just listened to my heart, and it's so important. I've realized that one has to get out of the comfort zone, because unless you do that, you know many things you kind of miss out. I mean, if you're not able to challenge yourself and take that little risk, also. But then the most important thing to have total belief in yourself. So I think if you're very determined and you have a lot of faith in yourself, then I think anything is possible. So
For us, this podcast was one such experience. So we were doing
okay,
audio only. We were doing audio only episodes initially,
okay,
and I was personally very scared of video. So I don't even like cameras. I don't like being photographed.
yeah,
And one day, and we just kept pushing it off on something or the other. So we kept saying we'll get a camera and then we'll start recording, or we'll do this and then we'll start recording. And
We
one day
need
we
an
just woke up.
editor, we need a camera, we need a
Yeah.
proper setup, and whatnot. We need a background, and just like everything. And
Random
then one fine day,
excuses, pulling ourselves down, stopping our own selves. And then one day we woke up and we were like, you know what? Let it be. Let's just record on our phones. And now we record on our phones. We are still waiting to get
Shop.
cameras. We are still on phones.
Super,
we just
super.
realized we were like, we're waiting to get cameras, and like any decent camera is a fairly, you have to give in a good amount of money to get a decent camera. And we were like, we want to wait until we put something in, until we're getting something out. And then we realized
Yeah.
we have our phones, which in themselves have such lovely cameras.
One of the founders whose experiences we would love to hear personally is Elon Musk. If you would want us to get him on the channel, please hit the subscribe button so we can get bigger and get to him sooner.
So, so as we were saying, video was quite the leap for us. And now
Okay.
it just seems like such a normal thing that we're sitting in front of the camera and recording. Because as Akhil said, both of us are super not very camera people. I'm one of those who like to rather be behind the camera rather than in front of the camera. So there was that
You-
inherent thing of getting in front of the
Yeah.
camera and recording.
Awesome. So, that is amazing to, get over that fear, to conquer that fear. So I'll tell you one thing about I have conquered a lot of my fears. I mean, uh, I'm very shy as a person. I don't think so. I think I'm very scared of public speaking as well. But I've given 2 TED talks. I get invited to by a lot of corporates to be a speaker, and now I'm an anchor on a show. You can't imagine. I still get sometimes scared, but no, I'm pretty better. I'm better, much better now. But it's so important to conquer your fears and also constantly upskill yourself. So I think it's so important to have a growth mindset. I'm all the time thinking कि अभी मैं क्या नया सीखूं, what can I learn, and how can I what next I can do to upskill myself and become better at my game. So that's how I think my podcast started, and that's how my other things started, because I was like, अच्छा ठीक है ये कर लिया, अब और क्या करना है, इससे better और क्या करना है, next level कैसे क्या करना है. So now my next challenge is writing. See, I'm not a good writer, but I want to write for a magazine. So I've decided that I am going to actually hone my skills. I'm going to, develop. I'm going to, take out half an hour every day to write. And I've given myself a deadline, a challenge that I'm going to write for a magazine or, some newspaper, on a print. So this is another
Journalists,
challenge.
watch out. Journalists, watch out. Garima is coming for you.
So that way, I think it's really nice that you guys did what you did.
So how
So
do you go about getting over your fears? What are some things that you do?
so I think it's very important to learn, and to if you are well prepared, then I think that fear thing is much much lesser. If but I think that's with anything. If you're not well prepared, you've not done your homework well, then obviously you go half. You are nervous. Another
What do
thing
you
is,
do? What's your way of going through it? What is your process?
so I think I like to take one step at a time. I if I think, okay, so like for NBA, I'm doing this show. And I never used to watch NBA, but I've never any games of basketball. Growing up years, I got married very early. I never got this exposure कि भाई okay, ऐसे कोई matches regularly देखना है. So I'm into motorsports, but I don't have a habit of watching F1 matches also regularly. So I don't have that. मतलब I don't know if मेरे को बचपन से that thought has been there कि अगर okay, मतलब why don't you go and be present and play? Why do you want to watch cricket? Why can't you be there in the field and be a cricketer and play? So I don't know, somehow that mindset has been there कि अरे देखना क्यों है, खुद ही जाके करो. I mean, so somehow I don't have I never had the habit. But for NBA, I have to know what's happening. There are so many teams out there, so many players out there. I have to watch the game. So, and it's so vast. It can be very overwhelming, I mean, so it's so important to take one step at a time. So I've decided, okay, I'm going to take out 1 hour every day. I'm going to watch, the 2 highlight matches, and I'm going to watch I'm going to hear this podcast and maybe, one article. That's all. Every day, even if I'll just do, give half an hour to 1 hour every day, that becomes a lot. अगर पूरा महीना देखा जाए or the entire year. So I think it's just consistency, taking one step at a time, doing that, that 1% improvement they say, no? Just do that. Just 1% improvement every day. That's all. That's enough, I think. That works.
I love how many times compounding comes over on our show. How many times it keeps coming over and over. So we talk about getting to the moon. So you just need to fold a piece of paper 42 times and you reach the moon. And by the time you fold it 80 times, you reach the sun. So like people really cannot comprehend a simple piece of paper 42 times. Just like that, 1% improvement every day. And you're better in 72 days. And then you are 2x the amount you were in 140 days. So like it's crazy how fast it moves.
Absolutely. Super.
I think all of us can take a cue from that. And I think it's about getting this whole thing of 1% small goals. You hear people, cricketers and all talk about, oh yeah, set yourself small goals. And here we have someone living it.
No, thank you so much. I think there have been so many, books out there, and so many people have spoken about this. It's important to just implement it, actually. It's just like...
So how is basketball treating you? Are you enjoying the sport? Who is your favorite player?
So see, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, there's no comparison to these
You're
players.
going for the safe answer.
Yeah.
You're going for the safe
Completely
answer.
hedge. I have to be on a show. Let me not say a current player.
Ask any Indian, who is your favorite cricketer? Virat Kohli, Sachin Tendulkar. No one else. Safe answers.
So some really awesome, but I'm still trying to, get that one name that I can, absolutely passionately say, okay, he's the one that, I really, I think is legendary. So I have studied and read a lot about these players, but I don't want to. I want to be honest with myself. I just don't want to take a random name and say, okay, this he achieved this, and that's how I think LeBron James. He has broken so many records, and that's how he's my top player as of now. But Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, why I said these names, because they are truly legendary, and they have taught us so much. I mean, by being a awesome example. The Mamba. You read that book?
Black Mamba.
The Black Mamba. Yeah, so that book is really inspiring. So I think I'm yet to figure out that one player for me in NBA, current player as of now. See, all of Luka Doncic, even Nikola Jokic, he is killing it. He's in the team is in the finals.
He's creating history as we talk.
So, but I still want to identify that one player, with whom I can connect, so I'm getting up there.
Since we're getting you to answer controversial questions, what's your favorite car? What's your favorite car?
McLaren 570S.
Oh, that was a quick answer.
That was like straight face venom. She's like McLaren 550.
That's what we wanted for basketball.
Okay. Car has I have spent more than a decade doing these stuff. NBA is not even 1 year old, so I'm still, kind of my toddler steps.
The common thing between Michael Jordan and between Kobe Bryant is that both of them were workhorses. So they were the first on the court, last out, and all they did was work, work, work. Kobe Bryant has this story that he used to have around 8 sessions a day. And he used to just go for a session, come back, then go for another session, then come back. Even Cristiano Ronaldo, a different sport, but again, a workhorse.
Yeah.
And I feel that you are able to connect with the two of them because you are so focused on, I want to learn and I want to grow and I want to see the next thing. So I feel like you will find your player another one of these absolute workhorses rather than just achievement. It's about the mindset.
I'm so glad that you were able to pick the I sometimes wish it happens that I fall short of the number of hours. There's so many things that I want to do during the day. मतलब मुझे लगता है कि ये रह गया, आज ये रह गया, ठीक है अब चलो कल करते हैं. मतलब I am enjoying my work and I love my work. And though sometimes I do get bogged down also. I mean, too many things sometimes happen at the same time, but I am, I'm very, very, I've become a workaholic and I'm loving it actually.
If you like the video, do share it with your loved ones and with your friends and family. If you got to learn something, let's show them some love as well.
But that's how all of us should be. We have been given these 24 hours, and I think I know at least that for me, this is, every sport you see, any place where someone's successful, at the end of the day, it just comes down to the number of hours. You see Tiger Woods, he used to be the first person on the practice range and the last person to leave at night, and that's why he is Tiger Woods. Every single place gives you these examples, so we just have to try to emulate these people, and there has to be a method to the madness. So I'm sure if these guys are doing it and being successful, if we can try to implement things like that, then it should work for us as well.
Totally.
So what's the next step in your journey? Where do you go from here?
So I told you my next challenge that I want to write. I want to get into writing. I want to write for regularly for, I have written a few times, like I had given an article for 80 Now and, once in a while, but I want to write regularly, maybe once a week or say. So that's my new challenge because I completely suck at that. It doesn't come naturally to me at all. Writing is not my skill. It's not my skill at all. So I want to hone it. I want to learn it. And I think and that will only happen if I read a lot. And after read, I analyze and I sit and make notes and I reread and I kind of go back again and reread. And I think that's the endless process and keep writing, I think is a lot of hard work also. Yes.
I don't think you'll like my recommendation, but you could always use AI.
ChatGPT. Oh,
So we here are big proponents of AI. We have fawned over ChatGPT. We have fawned over all the other AI assistants out there. And we have unabashedly fawned over all of them. So there's no favoritism here. But yeah, so both of us are also very technical, okay, 1 + 1 = 2. We don't really understand the whole writing is so creative and, this thing can flow and let the creative juices flow. And there's so many times we're just like, Chat GPT, come here, XYZ, other AI assistants come, let's get a start and then we will see where we go. So that's where at least we have been doing all our writing.
no, awesome, awesome. Great. This technology is amazing. I am also constantly, when I say constantly learning, I'm also studying it. I recently uh, got subscription for Kaiba, the AI, this thing, and I made my first reel today only from Kaiba. That AI, converted an image into a video, by giving some prompts and this thing. So I was trying out. So AI is on.
What about your podcast? So, what do you talk about on your podcast? What kind of guests do you get on your podcast? What is it about?
So, see, this podcast, I have put it up entirely 100% on my own. So, if today somebody tells me, okay, I want to run a podcast, I will be able to help that person, because I've done it from the scratch. I did not take any help of any media agency or hired anyone. So I know how this works, the thumbnails, the captions, what platform to record it, edit it. I have done it all. So that's been a great, great journey for me. Um, so on my podcast, basically, I'm inviting athletes. So these are basically Olympians and world champions, and some people who can also talk psychology, because unless you have tasted success a bit, um, you can talk about failure, but you have to balance it out. So and everybody, I mean, it's not possible that any people have success, failures, in fact more than successes, and they have lost 100 times and won like twice. So it's the case with everyone. It's the case with me also, I mean. So that's how I have these athletes coming on my podcast, because then I can talk to them about a bit about psychology, and so that they can motivate with some advice and all, to add value to the listener.
Any amazing athlete that came on, which like really stuck with you? Something that they said?
Recently I had David Coulthard on my podcast. He's been an F1 driver, and yeah, he talks about the importance of teamwork, and I think though, I mean, nothing can happen single-handedly. Also, in this, things can happen, but it's so important that um, to put the team together to work in a very positive, and you need people supporting you, and standing by you, and the entire positive atmosphere really helps. Yes.
So is there a reason you went towards athletes?
Because that is, I was able to relate to them the most, because I'm myself an athlete. I consider myself an athlete, though I started very late. But I have, in my school years also, I've always been the house captain, the sports captains, and I've been very, very athletic. And till the time I got married, and for the longest that duration when I was not doing any much of, I was not playing any sports per se, but I have always been a great badminton player. I love golf. I play golf regularly. I have a good handicap. And so, yeah, basketball I've played in my school years for sure. And badminton I've been regularly playing. I go to the gym regularly. So I consider myself a sports person and an athlete. So I thought I would be able to, associate with them more. This would be my area.
Wow, that's a really concise answer. So you've actually thought a lot about athletes and talking to them for like a long time before you started your podcast, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Frankly, it's just when I said when I got into social media and all. So one of my friends, was doing was working in some there's a platform backstage. She was working there, so she invited me for a podcast, and I thought it was so cool. So then I realized that why don't I try doing something related to sports? And so yeah, and then I thought I'll explore it and let me try it out. And
One thing led to another, and here we are with you
yes.
having such an amazing podcast.
Do you have questions for the founders? Please comment them below so that we can be sure to ask the founders the questions that you would like to be asked.
Thank you so much. It's just, I think, it's so important to be grateful. And gratitude is something, I very deeply believe in this. And I think we all, we are all blessed, and all have so many blessings and, so much of grace of God. I think it's so important to constantly thank and remember all the blessings that we have and feel grateful for that. So I think for me, gratitude is the topmost value that I think I pursue and I follow and I kind of follow in my life, So I think that really helps. I mean, that's how the positive attitude comes along if you're grateful, I think.
So we have this thing we like to ask one-liners to end our podcast. So I would love to ask you, in one line, what has been your favorite failure?
Favorite failure. Okay. That's a tricky one. Marriage came to me the first exam, but I don't know it's my favorite failure or not. But some things are not in your control. Okay, so not marriage. Favorite failure.
You can take your time. It's all right.
Yeah, you can take all the time.
That's a good one. Okay. I'm just thinking what have been my failures. See, earning money is extremely difficult. Okay. I am a completely self-made person. So, you know, I have not borrowed or taken loan from anybody, not even my closest family member. So I have bought a television from my own money. I've bought a car from my own money. So I don't know what should I say about failure. So failure, छोटे छोटे तो बहुत हो गए ऐसे कोई बड़ा मेजर फेलियर तो बस मैरिज ही थी बस
It's not about major though. I'm asking you what's your favorite. Is
अच्छा
there anyone that stands out that you look back on today and you're like, that's
Maybe something that
that
happened that just like pushed you forward so much that it was unthinkable how much it pushed you forward.
Oh yes, okay, that I can definitely now tell you. So whenever I have faced any kind of differentiation or judgmental thing because I'm a single mom or single woman, it has motivated me to even prove myself further, work harder, and do something, even better and more extraordinary to, shut the person down. Not shut the person down, just to feel even good about myself, okay? Because वो बहुत होता है, I mean, क्या होता है, when you're powerful, then everybody wants to be with you. When you are week, then everybody leaves you. So I'm sure, I mean, there have been, I think that's my favorite failure or the weak moment, because that motivated me to do something extraordinary with my life and to, you know, have more self-respect because of that.
That's
Sorry,
awesome.
this was one line answer, but I just kept on and on.
No, it's
That's all
perfect.
right. When you have an answer like this, I think one line is not sufficient. So
If you could just chop it off, yeah.
we're keeping the entire thing. We're not editing out a single part of that. That's going to be fully there. I think we can come to a close. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for chatting with us. Your journey has been supremely amazing. I think I knew bits and pieces of it, but it is so awesome to be able to get a first-hand account of the things you've gone through and what drives you, the passion that you have. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us, talking to us.
No, thank you very much for having me. And I think you guys are doing a wonderful job with your podcast. All the very best for it. And thank you very much for having me.
I think if we can manage to improve 1% a day, somewhere we will get to parity with the Garima Avatar show.
Hopefully someday soon.
Thanks. You guys are also yourselves.